Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Get ready.
HBCU Pride.
We're on the road again with the Chevrolet Discover the Unexpected Fellowship.
Buckle up. Let's ride.
Apply now at nnpa.org/ChevyDTU.
Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. And as you see there in the promo, Chevy and the National Newspaper Publishers Association are giving 11 HBCU students an exciting opportunity to discover the unexpected about their communities, careers, and themselves. Using NNPA's professional resources and innovative technology, DTU fellows will share stories that shatter perceptions, push boundaries, and encourage us all to discover the unexpected. Here to discuss is David Milledge, the Assistant Manager for Multicultural Marketing for General Motors. David, good morning.
Good morning, Stacy. How are you?
Good to see you. Exciting program. David, tell us a little bit about the program, how long it's been going on, and who it specifically targets.
Perfect, Stacy. So, hey, good morning again, all. So the DTU program, or also known as the Discover the Unexpected program, has been around since 2016. It's a partnership between the NNPA and Chevrolet. And so it was really started as an opportunity to amplify Chevrolet as a brand within the Black community, and also provide opportunities for interns to tell authentic stories that target the Black community. In terms of who this targets HBCU students, which is something that you don't often hear, a specific brand having a internship that's solely for historically Black college and university students. So anyone who is from 18 years to 22 can certainly apply. And all you have to do is either be a communications major, a journalism major, or even someone who is adept at content creation. Because again, that's a big piece of the program, is the storytelling component.
You mentioned 18 to 22. Now, if you're in, I believe, Alabama, you have to
Yes,
be
sir.
19.
Yes, sir. You do have to be 19 if you're from Alabama.
A little bit different laws down there in your hometown, in your home
Yes,
state.
yes. Originally from, Montgomery, Alabama, born and raised, and fly that flag as often as I can. So there was intentionality here behind making you call out state Alabama.
So David, the application is due, I believe, April the 7th.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
Tell us
sir. Yes,
about
sir.
that.
So application is due April the 7th at 11:59 Pacific Standard Time, and the application includes a few components. Obviously, there is the application portion, and then you also have a video portion that you must submit, and then lastly, there's a writing sample. And so for anyone that's interested in applying, all you have to do is visit nnpa.org/ChevyDTU. And the application will be right there as soon as you log into the site. And if there are any particular questions as it relates to the application, we have a very robust FAQ section that can address many of your questions there.
And David, also, you mentioned, first of all, let me just say this to our viewers too. This is again, it's a great program. There's a scholarship involved, a $10,000 scholarship for students who are selected for the program, plus an $8,000 stipend. And this is only for the summer. And what better way to spend your summer getting a scholarship, having a little change in your pocket, and hanging out with folks from GM and, of course, Black-owned newspapers. David, you mentioned the video component, and you also mentioned the written. What must be on that video, and what are we looking for as far as a writing sample that you mentioned?
So the writing sample, so I'll start there. So the writing sample really just focuses on you just presenting your best work. It doesn't have to be a particular topic that you lean in on, just your best work that just displays that, you have interest in storytelling there, and then also that you're just very adept at writing there. So would certainly say that anyone who has a passion with that particular skill set certainly apply. But on the video component side, there are a few questions that you have to answer, and they're really focused around um, electric vehicles and the innovation associated with electric vehicles. So, when you log into, again, nnpa.org/ChevyDTU, there's a FAQ section that really walks you through exactly the type of questions that you'd have to respond to. So, I would encourage anyone, again, journalism major, communication major, or just anyone who is passionate about content creation and just have that multimedia savvy, should certainly apply. And, I cannot beat the drum enough on the topic of, this is a program that's specifically targeted at historically Black colleges and universities. And I can speak as a person who is an HBCU graduate from Tuskegee University, who had internships in college. I mean, nothing sets you on a positive trajectory like getting that work experience while in school, particularly in disciplines that you're passionate about. So, again, are you passionate about content creation? Are you a communications major or journalism major? And are you a HBCU student between the ages of 18 to 22? And of course, you have to be at least 19 in the state of Alabama to apply. Certainly visit nnpa.org/ChevyDTU.
Yeah, and David, before we let you go, uh, David Youngblood is asking about ensuring advertising and NNPA in every HBCU. Let me ask you this: how else are we? Is GM getting the word out on this program?
So certainly, we're partnering, again, with NNPA, and I know that, kudos to you, Stacy, and the Let It Be Known program here, because I understand that you all had a chance to speak, while at a program at Disney, letting students know about the program. The program has also been advertised on the Chevrolet DTU Instagram, and also social channels. So, and of course, we have scores of alumni. Program's been around for 6 years there. We've had 40 plus students be a part of it. And so we have a very, very robust alumni network there that is also circulating this application through their particular channels.
Well, and it should be pointed out too, as you and I talked about earlier, perhaps before we went live, DTU, GM has been a partner of some form with the NNPA for over a half century, a dedicated partner. We certainly appreciate General Motors and its family of vehicles. And David, we appreciate you for you stopping in this morning, the assistant manager for multicultural marketing for General Motors. David, keep up the good work, and we will see students. Please, and if you know of students who can't use, I mean, that's 18 grand over the summer. That's like 9 grand a month. Who can use that and the experience that goes with it? So thanks, David, for joining us. And please, folks, April 7th, if you know of someone 18 years old, 18 to 22, have them sign up, at least apply for the NNPA and GM's Chevys Discover the Unexpected. David, thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you so much, Stacy. And again, I appreciate the partnership of NNPA with General Motors. So,
Absolutely. So joining us now is the publisher, one of the publishers who is going to have a student from the program at her newspaper this summer, Denise Rolark Barnes of the Washington Informer. Good morning, Denise. We can
Good
never hear
morning,
anybody when
Stacey
they're on
Brown. Good
mute.
morning. I was looking at the comments. I like Michelle Madison. I wish I could drink that coffee that she has on on her post because I could use it right now.
Michelle, you got to share your coffee, Michelle. Denise, this program, let's talk about first what it means to you as a publisher to see these young 18 years old, 19, 20, 21 to have interest in journalism, number one, because you come from look, your dad started the Washington Informer and didn't just start the Washington Informer, but he really was a community figurehead who people look to for a lot of reasons, including news and information. What does it mean for young ones at that age to be involved in journalism?
Well, Stacey, I was up at Howard University a couple of weeks ago talking to some students there. And one of the things I stressed to them, only because this was my experience, and I'll just say my dad started the Informer when I was 9 years old. This was my summer job, 18,000 compared to the $25, I got for the summer, is a
You're jealous?
big difference. Yes, I'm very, very jealous. But then my father said, look, who's feeding you, who's clothing you, who's housing you, so I had to take that into consideration, or understand the value of that. Let me put it that way. But one of the things I try to tell these students is that, you can do it now. You go to school, apply to a university, you're taking journalism classes. But if you really want to do this, you don't have to wait until you get that degree because, I always said you can learn journalism actually in one class. You can learn the journalism rules. The rest of it is just technique and strengthening your technique of interviewing skills and what have you. So, those students that take advantage of this program, not only get real life experiences, they bring with them what they're learning in their classes. A lot of what we did, I've been out of journalism school several years, and
Just a
so
couple.
just a few, and but what they're learning in their classes now to bring that to a real life experience is just it's fantastic, and there's no need to wait. Let's do it now and take advantage of this opportunity and work in the real world,
Yeah.
start making connections. Who knows? You come to the Informer, one day you might be sitting at the desk, taking notes for a story, and the next day you might be in the White House.
Yeah.
So, there's no need to wait if this is something that you truly want to do. And I think
And
journalism
you
offers that opportunity.
and you might also be the Washington Informer's managing editor, modeling the paper in front of Martin Luther King Boulevard there.
Exactly. Misha Green, our editor, who joined us in December, and we're really, really proud to have her. She is a worker bee, and she likes working with young people too. Not that she's
Yeah.
young, but she's working with her peers.
Yeah. And David Youngblood, Denise says 25, you got $25 and wisdom beyond a degree.
Yes, I did. I did. Yes, yes. And somebody else asked a question, which I really wish that David Milledge had a chance to answer, because I want to make sure I'm very clear on this. But this is limited to HBCU students
Correct.
and not Black students who may be attending other universities. So
Correct.
just keep that in
Exactly.
mind.
Yeah. And so Denise, you've had experience already having student uh, HBC DTU student at the Informer. What was that like? What did that student carry from the program? What do you believe that student carried from the program? And what did the Informer? How did the Informer benefit?
So last year we had a young lady. Her name is Asia. She's from Florida. She's a student at Howard, and she was asked to join us or as were the other DTU students, to help us with our TikTok um, um, platforms. And the students decided themselves that at the current time, the Black newspapers that they were working with our audiences were not on TikTok, but we had strong audiences on Instagram. And I said, well, make it work. Let's see what
Right.
we can do. And she transformed our Instagram page. Now that she's gone, it's reverted back. But when she was there, it became and she, you could tell that she was not just a social media expert, and I'll call her an expert, but she was also a journalist. You could see it in the way that she would create posts. And so I was up at her, and the crazy thing about this for me, Stacy, was that she was a freshman,
Wow.
which was so amazing. So now she's in her sophomore year, getting ready to go into her junior year. She's running for Miss Howard.
Okay.
She works for uh, Senator out of Atlanta. Why am I getting brain freeze?
Out of Georgia, the senator out
Georgia.
of Georgia. Gosh. Yeah, Raphael Warnock.
Yeah, she works in his office. And so, I mean, her skills speak for themselves, and people were actually trying to recruit her during the summer. So I think the students see this as an opportunity and they take advantage of this. We had a DTU student who is now a health writer for Word and Black.
Okay.
We have students who have gone on, sadly, but good for them, to work in uh, daily publications, or they're working in, um, uh, in, what am I trying to say, television or broadcast media.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, it just gave them that boost that they needed, an assurance that they needed, that they were prepared for the world.
Yeah.
And so this is, I'm really so proud of them. I try to keep up with them. Can't always, keep up with all of them, because this has been since 2016, I
Yes.
think David said. So, but we call them our journalism babies, and we just love to see them grow and develop.
Yeah, Mark Campbell is asking. He says it would be great to have this type of program for high school seniors. It would be a great motivator for all students. Well, I think in a lot of cases, in some cases at least, high school seniors are encouraged to apply if they're going to an HBCU. And remember, the age is 18, and many high school students are 18. High school seniors are 18. So they are again eligible if they are going to an HBCU or plan to go to an HBCU. So they are welcome to apply as well. Again, the deadline is April the 7th. They are very, very strict about the deadline. So if you know of anybody who's interested, and like I said, gosh, I certainly would have been interested at 18. I'm just thinking of the scholarship, 10,000 just for the summer, and
Yes.
8,000 stipend. And oftentimes, and it's still, there's nothing confirmed about this year, but oftentimes the student has available to them access at the latest GM car as well. So we'll see what happens this summer. But car aside, I'll get on the metro if you're giving me 18 grand.
Well, last year, of course, they had an electric car.
Yes.
And, we were responsible for getting the car back to the truck that was taking the car back to Detroit. So that was my job, because I have not driven an electric car. And the other thing was charging an electric car, which really opened our eyes to some of the challenges that people that own electric cars may have if they don't have their own charging stations in their homes or what have you, and how we were finding in particularly in our communities, in Black communities, the charging stations aren't as accessible as they
Mm.
are in other communities. So while the experience of driving the car was great, that was a story that spun off from just what it means to own an electric car. And as we know, there is what is it? There is a mandate that we will get rid of these fuel
Yeah.
cars and go to all electric at some point, but we need to have equal access to these power stations.
Mhm.
I went to one station to get the car charged, and plugged it in, and they told me it would be charged in 15 hours.
Oh gosh.
So, I mean, I didn't
Could you
know, I had
imagine?
not had that experience about what you do with electric cars, so I started calling the charging station to try to figure out how to fix this. But at any rate, I think it was good for the students, because this is where, when they probably get their first cars. They'll probably go electric, and they'll probably maybe go with a GM car. So it's good for the company as well, but it's definitely a learning experience.
Yeah, and now it's like when you say one thing, you get called out on it. So I said they're really, really strict about their deadlines. Well, we are now being told that the date has been extended to May 15th.
Oh,
Miss
well,
Claire
it says
Perry.
May 7th there, so we need to fix that too.
We all over the map
So
with the deadlines.
confused.
but I'm going by, of course, the one person who definitely would know. Ms. Claudia Perry says the 15th. The deadline has been extended to the May 15th, and which is good because look, it just gives more students an opportunity. As I mentioned to David, and David responded during this discussion this morning. We were with the Disney Dreamers Academy the last several days, and we got a chance to mention to some of them this program, and they and their parents were extremely excited about this program.
Mhm.
So, and the beautiful thing about that is you'll probably have some who apply this year who are eligible, but then there's some who are 17 and 16 years old in that program in Disney that will down the line, perhaps they will remember to apply as well. So, students, look, we talk about student loan debt, Denise, we talk about that situation, and students, rightfully so, are looking for all types of scholarship opportunities. And this is a great one.
Well, they are looking, and sadly, in a lot of cases, Stacy, because, we were all 17 and 18 once, and, may have had parents, as I had to do with my two sons, I mean, constantly stay on them about, get that application filled out. Did you fill out the application? Do it, do it, do it. And a lot of times our kids, don't take it, let these opportunities go by and then regret it in the end. And the one thing that you mentioned it earlier about GM's commitment, because when they first started this program with us, it was an experiment. Let's see if this will work. And they have been committed to this program every year. And so, yeah, I mean, there's no promise that it will be there next year, but I believe based upon what we've seen that it will be there. There's a commitment to continue the program, but we've got to get those students who want to apply, who want to take advantage of this. They get a chance to go to Detroit, to GM's headquarters. You get to meet, I mean, there's so many job opportunities in this area that you get exposed to, not only just with journalism, but just public relations, and exposure to other students at other HBCUs, networking. I wonder if I could apply.
Well,
I'll go back to school.
you said the networking part too. We've seen, and throughout this program, how close these students, even though they're working at different, you may have somebody in Washington working at the Informer, or out in Dallas working at the Examiner, or Houston Ford Times, Philly Tribune, but they all somehow connect.
They
and
do.
and they develop what looks like is going to be, and obviously we don't, it's early to tell, even for 6-7 years it's still too early to tell, but it looks like it's going to be lifelong relationships. These students, they seem so close when we have the press conferences, the get-togethers. They seem like they are old friends.
Yes, they do. Mm-hmm. And they've got a lot to share. I mean, some of them come from the same places. Some of them are, they're all at HBCUs. They're majors. I know they're comparing what they're learning in their schools, and sharing other opportunities. Because once they come through this program and they begin to network, what else is out there? And
Right.
so, it's just, I think it's an excellent opportunity. And if you know anybody, any student, your next door neighbor student,
Right.
anybody, get them to apply.
I encourage. I believe it was last year. I kept encouraging my niece to apply, and she's going to an HBCU, and she can apply again this year.
Right.
She's still eligible. and others. I've continued to encourage others. But Denise, with that in mind too, you look at programs like this. Dr. Tisa Silva Kennedy, good morning. She says she'll certainly share.
Good.
But you look at opportunities like this. You look like what GM is doing with the NNPA. Don't discount the NNPA's role in this. It's just as important as GM's role. But we need other organizations to do things like this, right? Why aren't they? Well, because it's such a boom for the company, that particular company involved. GM. This is a win-win for GM.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that others aren't. I believe that as a matter of fact, it seems as though, once you get engaged in a program, you start learning about others. And there are others out there. We're committed to this one because this one is committed to us, to the Washington Informer, to the other Black newspapers that are part of NNPA. It's committed to NNPA. So of course, we want to do our best to promote this program and to provide this experience. But other organizations are doing it and may not have the partnership, which makes this unique with our publications. So, but as we learn about them, students can apply, and they actually do go through other journalism training programs where now I don't know if they get scholarships, but they get paid.
Right.
So, and that's one of the things, as I said, I strive to encourage students, especially those at Howard and UDC, because that's in my community, to start doing the research now. You applied to get into this university. Now see what the other opportunities are. This is just a place to learn a skill, but also to build a network.
Yeah.
That's what college is all about, building your network. And so, some get it early, some get it later, as long as they get it.
And just remember www.nnpa.org/ChevyDTU can apply there. Again, we just learned that the deadline has been extended. That is a fantastic thing. Look, because we still got a few months before the program actually kicks off at the newspapers, right? So why not? May 15th sounds like a good day to me.
Yeah, I think it does too. And the other thing I would say is that for students who read about the program and you see the papers, the publications that are participating, I mean, you've got us, you've got the Atlanta Voice. What are some of the other papers?
Dallas Examiner, the
Mhm.
Philadelphia Tribune, the Houston Forward Times, and the Atlanta Voice.
So reach out to those publications. If your students or your young person doesn't know anything about those Black-owned newspapers in their communities, they ought to. So this gives you an advantage as well, because as you create that sizzle reel or that video that you have to do to apply, think about it. How cool would it be to even say something about the publication that you could eventually be working for? I'm giving away hints, but that might be something to do. But it's good to know about those publications in your neighborhood. And even if it's not one that's mentioned, still, parents, help your students. Oh, there's Asia right there.
There's Asia.
Asia.
Yes. Look and see. Now that's a great one right there, because there's one small result of someone being in the program, right?
Right.
Look, in a promo, a General Motors NNPA promo. That is awesome.
It is awesome. I need to ask David. I didn't ask him if I could get a copy of that video. We want to definitely do it on our social. Oh, there she goes again. On our social platforms.
You mean that video that Greer
Yes. And anybody that knows, we didn't show it, but Mark Thompson.
Yes.
That's his son.
Oh,
in
okay.
that video.
Look at that. Mark Thompson representing everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know where he went, but I'll
Yeah. Well, Michelle Madison says this is really a good program. I was working, she says, at Sears and Roebuck while pursuing a Susan Robach. I haven't heard that name
I
forever. While
know.
pursuing a communication degree at Morgan State University when I was 18, I would have loved this. And that's the key, right? We don't young ones and those who may not be so young, who have children, who have nieces and nephews and maybe even grandchildren. Um, Share it because you don't want them to say, I wish I would have. This is an opportunity to get in front of it. May
Yeah.
15th is the deadline. The experience is amazing. These kids, they get to do so much. And again, I hate using the word kids, right? It's these young ones,
Yeah.
the-
Young adults,
these
right?
students.
Mhm.
Yes, they get so much out of this, and this is by their own testimonies. When you go on that website to apply, look at some of the testimonies from these students, and I tell you, these are not scripted testimonies at all. Just look at some of the testimonies. They tell you what the experience was like for working with a Denise Rolark Barnes or a Karen Carter Richards or a Janice Ware or Molly Belt. They'll tell you what it was like, and those who get the chance to work at for the Philly Tribune and Bob Bogle, you'll see a boss of boss with Bob Bogle.
No
so,
question.
so
Stacey,
experience it.
I want to just share this story really quickly too, because I thought it was so cool. So the one year, the DTU students had to drive the car from Atlanta to DC, and I know you know Dr. Sherman, Chantella
Yes.
Sherman. We came up with an idea so that it wouldn't be just a straight road trip, but we came up with 2 stops that were in the Green Book. And so since they were doing video, they had to stop, do an interview, create a video on either a hotel or a restaurant. And they weren't familiar with the Green Book, right? Which of course is the book that showed African Americans the safe places where they could go as they were traveling throughout the South.
Right.
And so they learned about that. They created really nice pieces. They came once they got to DC, they were very excited about that experience. And they learned, a little bit more about our history. And so we try to find our ways to incorporate a lot of that into the experience as well. So, it
That is
was cool.
awesome.
Yeah. It
That
was
that
cool.
that was really really cool. And it wasn't around the time they did a movie on the Green Book.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
That
Exactly.
was that was awesome. When those students did that, I remember that so well. So anyway, apply. We can't stress it enough. It's such a great program. I talk about the money aspect of it, the scholarship aspect of it, but there's so much more to it. And of course, the scholarship aspect, when you think about all the student loan debt and the talk of student loan, the president can't even forgive student loans in this climate we now live in. So any little bit helps. And so join and you will have a great summer and benefit in many ways from it. Denise Rolark Barnes, the Washington Informer. You have a program on Friday, every Friday at 12. People should watch it. Win TV. Um, what's coming up on Win TV on Friday? Or have you not yet spoken to Chevy yet about it?
I have not spoken to Chevy yet, but I know we're going to talk a little bit about taxes. People
Okay.
trying to get those taxes filed and in. So we're gonna. I remember her saying something about that, and but otherwise, no. It's a mystery to me, but that's why I want
Denise signs
to
the checks,
watch.
but Chevy's the boss.
I want you to come and watch.
Win TV, go to the Washington Informer site, come to this site. You can see Win TV at noon on Fridays.
On Fridays.
It's like, yeah, got like 1,000 episodes now.
We do have quite a few. Yeah. So now that's why I'm waiting for this DTU student to come in to show us now, what do we do with all this, right? Because
Right.
they'll know. They'll know. They just don't know how much value they bring to our publications because of what they're learning in school. And now to be able to put it into practice
Yeah.
really does help out our publications as well. So yeah, we've got quite a few, Stacey. We've been doing this. This was our COVID baby. And
Yep.
we're still doing it.
It's one of those things where, of course, COVID was horrible, But the
Yes.
silver linings that came out of COVID is I mean, for us anyway, that those who were sort of dragging their feet on the digital side, on doing stuff like this, you had to do it. You had to do it. Um, and so we got this program. You got Win TV out of it, and the what's Patrick Washington's paper in Dallas. You know,
Weekly.
Dallas Weekly,
Hmm.
Atlanta Voice, of course. Danny Bakewell and the Sentinel, they do some great stuff out there with the
Yeah, I've
infotainment.
watched. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah, they've been
absolutely
doing a good
amazing. The Forward
job.
Times, Jeffrey Boney has his Real Talk Junkies. So many because as a direct result of the pandemic, we were able to do things that or speed things up where we may have been behind on, and so it's been in that sense some sort of a blessing out of that, right?
Yeah, it was a I mean, we felt as though, I mean, we were still doing our jobs. We're still covering press conferences. We're still telling stories. We're still interviewing people. We're still focusing on issues, but people couldn't get out to get our newspapers, right? And stores were closed, so they weren't accessible. So what do we do with this content? Well, why don't we just have conversations with our readers? Show what we're producing, but still talk to them
Hmm.
and let them talk to us through programs like this. So it made a lot of sense, and it still makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So it was born out of necessity, and fortunately, we recognized that it was accessible. So
yeah, yeah.
somebody
And
needs to let your chairman know that they changed the date.
the president and CEO
President.
is writing in that the deadline to apply is midnight, April 7th. But we've since learned, Doc, or the profile, or those posting to Doc's profile, that the deadline has been pushed to May the 15th
Right.
at midnight Pacific Standard Time. So May 15th, y'all, get it together. Let's get it together. And so Denise, again, thank you so much. I know that it's a lot for you to get with us in the morning with all on your schedule, but I was so happy to learn that it's not a gym morning for you. Denise,
Well,
we
it's an
working it out.
excuse not to be. Yeah, I'm trying, hey, the clock is ticking. I'm trying to slow it down a little bit.
Oh God, that
You
clock
know,
is not. That clock stopped a long time ago, Denise. Come on, that clock stopped.
no, no. I
you
mean,
you
anytime,
you can't you can't get old and you can't go anywhere.
well,
So
health, but still,
Washington will not stand for it.
everybody knows we got to take care of our bodies. One thing that COVID told us is that people can be here today and gone tomorrow.
Gone
So,
tomorrow, yeah.
let's take that. Even if what you're saying is true,
Yes.
I don't believe it.
But I don't believe it. Terrible, terrible, terrible. But that's okay. Denise, finally, before we let you go, you're obviously the Informer. If you go on WashingtonInformer.com, you have news constantly. The paper's weekly, but the news is constant. What's coming up in the Informer on Thursday that you want to make folks aware of that they should be looking out for?
So, I mean, I have some dynamic reporters. I mean, my heart swells when I think about the team that we pulled together. And so I know one of the stories, of course, is Sam Collins, Sam PK,
Amazing, Sam PK.
who is a regular, hope, thankfully on your show, is following the mayor's budget. This is budget season, and we're not only in a constant fight with Congress because folks out there, we don't have voting representation in Congress, and Congress has to approve our budget. And Congress rejected our budget because of some issues they had about well, not our budget, but about our crime bill. They had to approve it. And the president said that he would veto it. So, I mean, other states, you all can pass laws and they become law. For us, your members of Congress have to approve what and have control over our lives in the District of Columbia,
But
which is not
Denise, think
fair.
about what you're just saying. Just what you just said. Folks should take that in for a moment. Um, and obviously, you're 100% right. When other states, uh, their legislator votes on something, that's it. It
Right,
doesn't go to Congress. It
right.
doesn't go to the White House. But Washington D.C., your council made a decision on something, and it went all the way up to the president of the United States, who vetoed it.
He has to sign off on our laws. And the members of Congress who vote on our laws,
They
we
don't,
know what the Congress looks like right now,
yeah,
and
and
we
they
know
don't represent Washington
right.
D.C.
Not at all. They may own a condo here, you know, but
or
they're
vote.
not, they're not even, they're not citizens or full-fledged residents of the district, but they determine the laws for the District of Columbia.
Yeah.
It's an overseer kind of relationship.
I think so. I know Eleanor Holmes Norton, the delegate for DC, has done a tremendous job for decades, pushing DC statehood. Um, but sometimes, Denise, you just simplified it for, at least for me. You just sometimes if the message is a little bit simple but and succinct, like you just said, because you got to let that, people could let that marinate, as they say. The fact that your council can create a law, even if the mayor was to go along with that law, it's still up to the U.S. Congress, and ultimately, or in this case, it was the president of the United States who stepped in to block it. That's really something else. So it's there's no freedom there.
No, no. And as you know, we just celebrated, well, this year marks the 50th anniversary of home rule for the District of Columbia. What does that mean? That meant 51 years ago, the only representatives that District of Columbia voters could vote on were our school board members. We didn't have a local elected government. We had an appointed government, and that government was appointed by the president, not by voters. For
Mhm.
years, we couldn't vote for president of the United States. And so, when you brought in people, I call, I don't like the word radicals necessarily, but, you know, uh, I mean, if it's not an appropriate term for folks, but you got, my dad, you had Marion Barry, you had Stokely Carmichael, you had folks here, even Dr. Chavis himself, was part of that group that really tried to get self-control for the District of Columbia.
Mhm.
And so we did get a home rule charter that allowed us to have a city council, an elected city council, and an elected mayor. And that was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So we have come a ways, but we haven't reached the mountaintop yet.
Right.
And when you look at the taxes the district residents pay, and the number that just came out this weekend, that because I had to moderate a panel on this, and two of the first elected members of the council were on that panel. But we pay more taxes than 20 states,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
But yet we don't control our own budget. Our budget has to be approved by Congress and signed off by the president.
Wow, that is amazing. Well, Denise, one last thing. This is the last thing. We talked about Sam, but I want to know, Denise has this awesome environmental reporter, um, who is, I mean, ever since she got to the Informer, she has hit the ground running and has not slowed down in the least. What is Kayla Benjamin working on this week that y'all got to read what she writes? Dr. Chavis coined that environmental racism and environmental justice, and it's been a big part of the black experience, right? Understanding how that's affected us. Kayla writes about this stuff like she was, born 100 years ago. She is tremendous. What is Kayla writing about this week? Do you know?
So one of the things, and I'll just say, I need to just share quickly that Kayla came to us through a program called Report for America. And it's like Teach for America or these other programs where a person can come and get experience working in a newsroom, and the newsroom and RFA share the cost of their salaries. And we were looking for an environmental writer. We interviewed 4, but Kayla just shined. And so we brought her on, and you're right, this is what she wants. This is her passion. It was our passion, and it was a perfect match. So this week, which is really a good thing, I mean, she's looked at Black leaders in environmental justice, and she's doing a series of articles because, and Kayla's not Black. I have to say that. But she recognizes that there's environmental justice, environmental racism. She understands what that's all about and the impact on the Black community. And so she's trying to help to raise the voices of Blacks who have been, or African Americans who've been very outspoken, who've had leadership positions, who are really being representative of our experience in this environmental justice or environmental movement. I always say we were the first environmentalists anyway. That's why, they brought us here, because we knew how to work the land, the soil, we knew what to do, just like the indigenous people of this country. But to answer your question, one of the stories she's working on is workforce, I'll say workforce development, but jobs. This environmental movement, which is not going away, which is growing. There are more resources behind it. There are lots of job opportunities in the environmental space. And so she's looking at a program that actually provides training, job training for folks in my neighborhood and other parts of the city to see where there's a future for them in the environmental movement. So I'm looking forward to reading that.
Denise highlighted that she's not Black. If you read her stuff, and you would not know that. It's like Elvis growing up around Black people, which we know he did, and that's why he had all that interest in Black music. She must have grown up around. I don't know her background. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
the way she writes, I did not know, and you can't know by reading it.
No,
The information is just incredible. So stay tuned. Read the Washington Informer on Thursday, but read it daily. The Thursday paper comes out, but remember, they're putting stuff out daily, like most of our papers are. Again, that's a product of the pandemic. We had to make sure that we had news all the time. I'm stealing the phrase from my childhood. 1010 wins, WINS in New York. All news all the time.
all the time.
So
I wanted to shout out too that, April 22nd is Earth Day.
Yeah.
So Kayla is working really hard now. We do an annual Earth Day or sustainability issue, which will come out on April the 20th. And so she's working really hard. We're supporting her in putting our sustainability issue together for April the 20th. We're going to do an event in the community with an organization called The Well. So we've got big plans, because we want people to understand that, this is our home, and we have to learn to protect it better. And so that's the point of what we're doing with the stories that we write. And
so I know we're supposed to close, but but this follow up with that, folks like Sam, folks like Kayla, even Misha, who went to the Baltimore Sun for a while, mainstream, what they call mainstream news, and came back home to the Black press. That the type of talent we're talking with Misha, the type of talent we're talking with Kayla and Sam, for Black newspapers, how do we keep that talent, Denise? It's so imperative that we are able to be competitive enough to keep that. And I guess that's where that fair, because we don't ask for handouts. Let's make that clear. But that's where that fair advertising dollar come in, right?
right. Yes, exactly. That now you're going to take me right back to GM and Discover the Unexpected.
Mhm.
As part of that relationship also benefits the newspapers. I think someone asked that question before. Do they advertise with us? And yes, they do. So that helps us to pay those salaries. Our salaries have to be competitive. And I'm always looking at what other journalists are being paid in the area. And if I have that's those stars that I can really, work hard between me and Ron Burke and what NNPA does to support our publications as well as others to make sure that our salaries are competitive. But it's not just money. There's one thing about I appreciate with this generation is that money doesn't really mean a lot to them, except, they've got they got to be able to pay rent and buy food and what have you. But they need something that makes them feel valued.
Mm-hmm.
And so giving them those experiences through the work that they do to that they'll gain, they may not get in any other place. We've had a reporter, who's worked for the Washington Post, and never had, or other publications, and never had the experiences that we've been able to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, pretend that we're going to be able to keep folks forever. But we want to keep them, or at least make them feel as though, their contributions are valued, that people are responding to their stories, that they're getting those great interviews, getting ready to go to those great places like Disney, which we weren't invited to that trip, but that's
Here we go. Sour grapes.
but we enjoyed it vicariously through you, so that was great. But yeah, I mean, it's not only keeping them, but making them more interested in coming to work with us. And DTU does that too, because when I came through journalism school, nobody talked about the Black press.
Right.
They weren't encouraging us to go work for our own media. That's changing.
Yeah.
And so we have to continue to get that message out because, like my dad used to say, nobody can save us for us but us. And if it is to be, it's up to me. So we have to really run our organizations well, make them attractive places for young people to come and work, pay
Mm-hmm.
them commensurate to what they might.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not be the best salaries, but it's close. It's what they would get if they went someplace else, right?
Yeah.
And provide them with opportunities.
Yeah, and that's you said something there because that's why it's so important. And I think Claudette Perry does an amazing job when we have our conferences and things of that nature of making sure that the Black press is represented properly. When you mentioned Disney, and Greer and I go down to Disney, and we not only represent the Black press, but we
Last few
also yeah, how about look at that. Denise and her dad. But we also have to promote the Black press and let people know the benefits of the Black, and we find ourselves as spokespeople all the time because like you said, we have to tell our own story and we have to really be our own champions because it's hard enough being in our skin. So and being the Black press, and so we mentioned again the DTU program. We thought it was very important. You got 100 high school kids at this program,
Mm-hmm.
and just about all of them are Black. A handful are now white. It was started off as an all Black program, but and there are benefits. We're going to get into that again, folks. Subscribe to our YouTube page, the Let It Be Known YouTube page. We're going to have some great content about that. A special that we're going to do or have been working on for that Disney Dreamers that you'll see as to why that diversity that they now have, that more diversity that they now have, why it's beneficial. But the point is, there was an opportunity. All these students there within the age range of the DTU program, and they're so talented,
Yes.
so gifted. So they're looking for opportunities all the time. And like you said, Denise, with these students today, the young ones today, it's not simply about the money. I think money is not even on the the top of the list. I think there are other factors that are on the top of the list that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Money is important. We're not saying it's not, and certainly they deserve. In a lot of cases, we talked again. about your staff and what they do. And folks they earn what they get. They earn their money. They earn their paychecks. No one is slacking. But we felt compelled that we had to represent NNPA, the Black press, in a way that perhaps we don't always get represented. Norman Rich mentioned at the conference in Puerto Rico about we need to advertise. We need to do that ourselves. It should be, and I've been saying that for a long time. The Black press should be at it, where possible, events like the Essence. We should have a banner or a booth. The Essence Festival, the Caribbean Parade in New York, the Puerto Rican Day Parade in New York. These large events. I think it's so important because we got to make sure that these young ones and others are recognizing the value, the importance of the Black press. 196 years.
Yeah.
196 years.
That's amazing.
And even NNPA is 4 years?
Yeah.
Who stays around that long?
Some of our newspapers are almost that old.
Well, look, your paper is what?
Well, we're one of the babies. I say we're 58.
58.
But, I think the Afro
130.
Right. Amsterdam News.
Amsterdam News. I grew up on the Amsterdam News.
Yeah. And they're still going strong.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. Norman asked, if people outside of the DC area can subscribe to the Informer, and I say yes, you can. And we ask you to sign up for our digital subscription. Just go to our website at WashingtonInformer.com, where you can sign up there. Excuse me. But no matter what market you're in, check out your local Black newspaper, because if they're online, you can subscribe to them digitally. And most of us don't have paywalls, so it's free. Mm-hmm. And those numbers help. We need those numbers, just like you subscribe to, what is it? The Black New, well, I can't remember the NNPA site. I'm getting
BlackPressUSA.com.
BlackPressUSA. You can subscribe to that. Download the app that was just
NNPA World News.
Exactly. I just did that the other day. So I mean, we're right. We are right in the palm of your hand. You don't have to go far just to read, a Black news. Well, it's 8:29. I guess we only have a minute left, but to read, to access our newspapers and I keep calling them newspapers, but you know what I mean. Our news. Period.
Yes. It's media companies, right?
Exactly. Media companies, but
David has downloaded the app. Power 96 says he grew up on the New Orleans Tribune and the Jackson Advocate. Wow, that's what I'm talking about. And thanks so much, Denise.
Thank you.
We will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for joining Let It Be Known.
All right.